Are we on?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Welcome back, everybody, to our council meeting this afternoon. Just of note, we have a paper missing from our reports, which we will add as 7.18 just before we move into exclusion of the public. Just for
The adoption of the local alcohol policy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to 7.5, delayed LTP 2024-34 costs. Carol.
Yes, so I will take the paper as read, but I will go through it. As we all know, we experienced delays in adopting the LTP, nearly an extra 3 months, which incurred additional costs. So the costs are set out in the table below. A lot of the costs involved us reworking the financials. We had to reforecast, we had to recalculate depreciation. So that was the bulk of that cost. We also experienced we incurred some legal costs around the LTP, and then we engaged Magic Software to help sort of sort out some of the financial modelling. So the first lot of costs are about, well, they're 48,000. And then we received a letter from Audit New Zealand, which is attached, requesting a further additional 57,000 for the additional LTP audit. So you'll see in the report that they said that the actual audit cost $313,648. Our budget was $4,000, and that left a difference of 239. They've also listed the number of hours that they spent on our LTP audits, and then they have kindly offered to write off 182,000 and leave us with an unbudgeted cost of 57,000. So I'm trying to get straight.
Very kind. Very kind.
So, yes. Questions.
I think Grace can go first. I might ask, but I'm going to
I'm
ask.
happy to ask.
Grace.
Have Audit New Zealand explained, I'm probably asking the wrong question here, why they're prepared to write off $182,000?
Great question.
Because that is not insignificant.
We don't know. We can only guess. It would be speculation as to why they may have decided to take such a significant write-off of their hours and why they spent so many more hours on it. But and it would be inappropriate for us to speculate as to why they.
Can I? Sure. Speculation would be underperformance.
Embarrassment.
Ineptitude.
Yeah. So further questions? I do have another, but anyone else have further questions?
Bearing in mind that the Office of the Auditor General set the audit fees, how does that play out when then we get handed an unbudgeted extra 57K to pay?
Well, I think because we had to re-audit the LTP, or part of it. So you already had the original audit of the LTP, then you had to have it reviewed a second time. So it's not unreasonable to get a cost for the additional audit.
Okay.
And I think their gesture of a write-off of 182,000 indicates that they recognise some inefficiencies in the process, hence our portion
Being a lot less than what they're writing off.
And I think we demonstrated at the second review of the LTP that we were ready. We were answering all the questions. We did all the work as soon as was required. And I don't think they were always at the same pace as us. So we did improve how we worked. And I think that's just their
And they didn't.
Well, I can't speak.
So my second question was just around another comment that
Mhm.
they've made in their letter, or Karen's letter. It's just around and this was, I was hoping that someone from Audit New Zealand would be here so I could ask them this question. It was expanding on the comment in the audit letter. These include the completeness and quality of some of the documents and supporting information provided for audit. I'm just curious what they're trying to say in the letter there.
I see your point.
Completeness and quality, I guess it depends how you look at it, because completeness and quality could, to me, means that the documents are full. And yeah, there's enough information there. So I'm just curious if they could have expanded on that, but Councillor Ayling.
Can we make comments yet?
Sure.
When I read this paper, and then I read it again because I couldn't quite believe the nerve of it, that we're being asked to fund such a significant portion of money towards an organisation that has put up its fees, like Councillor Williams said earlier, 40%. We are already paying way more than I can even imagine us. If our ratepayers knew how much money, or took the time to consider how much we're spending on audit every year, and everything that we're doing has to go through audit, and you think, well, at least we're getting good service, but we're not. We're getting, pushed through the ringer. I think there was the meeting we had last week with our audit director was shambolic. It was embarrassing, and it was really unprofessional. I thought the disregard that was shown to the staff pressure that is on our team, the workload that they've put our team through their, the 1st of October, you said it was meant to be done, and we're here in the 10th, 11th.
So it started on the 1st of October for 3 weeks.
For a 3-week
plan.
Yeah, so a 3-week audit that we're doing nearly
11 weeks later.
11 weeks later. And I remember at the time when you said it's a 3-week audit, we're up to week 4, and I thought, okay, well, we'll give them a little bit of grace here, but that's a joke. And then to have this additional 1,119 hours that they've allegedly spent on our council's long-term plan is, I'd be interested in seeing their calculations. If you're a lawyer and you have to put in every 15 minutes you've spent on something, I'd love to see the breakdown of that, because that seems like a big number that they've thrown at us, and a really big additional cost of 313,000. And I just think I'm really thankful for the motion that Councillor Cherry-Campbell put forward previously, because I think the service that we've received from the Office of the Auditor General through this process has been ridiculously bad. I found it so frustrating, and it's something that we have to do, which makes it more unfair. It's something we legislatively have to do this process. So yep, we'll suck it up and we audit things. We want it to be above the book. I think where there have been mistakes made by our council, we've been quick to own it, and I am so frustrated that they're not owning their mistakes. And perhaps this will write off 182,000 as their way of showing that there's been an issue. But I think it takes some nerve for them to send us a bill at the end of this process. And I really hope that we have a very strongly written letter and a case put to the Auditor General to get us out of this relationship, because it is not something that I think we should be continuing with as Carterton Council.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And additional to that, is there I don't know if this is being over the top to the Auditor General, is there an opportunity to suggest to them that we're not happy paying the extra costs?
There is.
Yeah, we're going to vote on that.
It's unbudgeted expenditure. We would need a council resolution. It's above my DA. Thankfully.
However, I would comment that we did have to have a second audit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we did do it extremely well. And you do have to pay for some service to get that. And we got an unqualified opinion through the extra work. So you kind of have to pay for it.
Round a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Newman.
Could have been higher.
I just have a question, because the maths doesn't stack up. If you know what they've outlined there, that summary, they've got the fee and the number of hours. So that fee they've outlined is based on the number of hours, correct? And so if you do the maths on that, the actual costs budgeted, they were going to do $280 an hour. And then the budget, the next one down works out to be 154. And then the difference / overspend works out to be $375 an hour.
Probably the difference in staff that was used, perhaps.
There's a difference in the type of auditor you use for different components, so it's not a set rate.
Okay.
And you have different levels at different parts.
Apprentices.
So
Okay.
it's not,
Not a flat figure.
it's not a flat figure, and you could never calculate.
Okay. That's cool. It just didn't make sense in my head.
Councillor Williams.
But yet, just following on from that, it's interesting that their budget audit, the whole LTP was 481 hours, and they spent 150% of that in the delay. It's like, surely you do the bulk of the work in auditing the LTP, and the top up is the delay. But this is the opposite. So it's like, how does that happen?
It's a great question, because you would have thought, for example, revenue and, assets and financial performance and all of the creditors and payroll and all of the things that weren't an issue when we ended up with a challenge around depreciation weren't touched, because they're already done, and all you're doing is picking up depreciation and going, right, we need to look at that. And for some reason, I'm a chartered accountant. I've been a CA for 30 years. I've desperately struggled through this process with Audit New Zealand. I've never seen anything like it.
Councillor Ayling.
I have a question for you, Jeff. Do you think the additional charge is fair and justified?
With Carol, I think, yes, we had to re-audit the LTP. There was a material mistake and we needed to fix it, and we needed to re-audit. And on that basis, yes, I think we are up for additional cost.
Of that level?
Yep, probably.
57 is good because they're remitting 180, but like the deputy mayor said, it's extraordinary for any business to offer to remit that amount of money. It stinks of embarrassment. I think they've worked it out and thought, crikey, we can't send this, but I mean, where we've landed, the 57, I think, is acceptable, all things considered. But the bigger elephant in the room is just the performance of audit. They've spent 3 months auditing us to check our performance. Well, it's me, hot kettle.
We'll do them.
With that, I'm happy to move to the recommendations if others around the table are. Take them both together. Let's receive the report. I'm happy to move that we receive the report. We have Councillor Cherry-Campbell. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? And recommendation 2, that we agree to accept the proposal from Audit New Zealand for the additional unbudgeted LTP audit fees of $57,000. This will be funded from reserves in the financial year 2024-5. We have a move in a second. Thank you, Councillor Della. Thank you, Councillor Gallen. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Do you want that noted?
Yes.
Councillor Ayling,
Sensible was the thing.
against?
Yeah.
Noted, please. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. I've got more later.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to 7 point.
Hey,
Hang on, 7.7.
we've only got the 7.21.
Great. Gonna nip.
But not in one afternoon.
Was it one afternoon?
Felt like it one afternoon.
Yeah.
Kia ora koutou. So this paper is on the Wairarapa State offer of the Esplanade strips, mostly out at Craigley Forest, Driscoll Road and Land's End. So this paper first came to you in September, and you were asking for feedback from engagement from Tangata Whenua, and also processing how Marsden District Council went through and accepted these. So Marsden District Council don't bring this through to council for agreement or adoption. This just comes straight up to the mayor and deputy mayor who sign them off. So that's why it was a bit of a growing in the process. So yeah.
And they have?
And they have. Thank you. And then with the mana whenua engagement, staff have undertaken that engagement with Forestry Enterprises. Forestry Enterprises have been really supportive and engaging and wanted to participate through this process. And they've had 2 really good meetings with Rangatane and Kahununu, who are both supportive of us moving forward.
Thank you, Glenda. Questions for Linda? I've got a couple.
No, you're right.
Just with the unequivocal support of local iwi, did their representatives provide any indication of how it could be utilised in the future, or are those discussions that hasn't?
I might defer to Clint.
And just additional to that, just whether they were prepared to assist with any funding towards the enhancement of what's possibly on offer there.
So I can answer the second part of that. So there is no planned enhancement at this stage. It's access that's been provided, and we've got no plans. Maintenance does not come back to us at this point. So no funding arrangements or need for budget for this one. And then first part.
Yeah, that just to back up what Glenda said, it's been put in for a long-term future development. So there's nothing on the table that we haven't committed to anything financially, and neither have they. Yep. What was your first question again?
Around mana whenua's views on how it could be used, how the strips could be used.
The same thing. They see the long-term future as holding a lot of potential for engagement with all stakeholders. So the forest enterprises, local authorities, and the local hapus, whānaus, and tourists as well, developing those spaces and places as a destination.
Okay. I just wondered whether there was an opportunity there to just whether it's even just planting natives in the Esplanade, or
there are boundless opportunities about that this project or this concept offers the community. There's all sorts of ways to engage in that environmental kaitiakita.
But no discussions around it at all. Okay.
At this stage.
No, it was just about securing the opportunity to grab the whenua while it's available.
Yeah.
Because there is a risk that with the forestry management changeover that these opportunity could diminish.
Cool. Councillor Della.
Thank you. I've read this report. Actually, I've read it a couple of times because I have some concerns over risk. And whilst I understand that there is no timeline of development or anything like that, and with us or with iwi, but on the top of page 99, the legal advice identified risk that council may be accepting a liability to maintain and manage the environment, which is remote and difficult. And my reasoning for that is in about the third line down, about the streams and creek beds that could become clogged with windfall debris and forestry slash. I see that as a fairly big risk in the future. And I'd just like to signal that to everybody that whilst we may take over the Esplanade now, are we liable for the slash or build up in the creeks right from the get-go, even though we're not doing anything with the land?
So that's a very good question. At this stage, we don't think so, because the slash is coming from forestry land, not from council land. We're also quite a long way from the sea in terms of the slash making its way and transferring all the way to the ocean. Our plan for the strips is to let them lie fallow. So in the event, and I expect we will have some forestry slash come down, as is always the case on the sides of hills into the gully or the bottom of the creek. Our plan is to do nothing at this stage and let them remain fallow in those creeks, which is what's happening today. Risk isn't changing, and we don't see the liability changing either from forestry enterprises being responsible for slash on their property and also for that slash transferring elsewhere into Carterton District Council or into streams, creeks, riverbeds or the ocean.
Do we know how far away this the forests are from harvesting? Or have we got any idea?
I haven't got the age class of that forest, no.
Okay.
So Gallon?
Some of the advice that we got was that those risk factors that you described belong to forest enterprises and their activities. We're not responsible for them because we didn't cause that event. Our activities don't, if we were in there causing that event and causing slash to go into the creek, then it's our liability. Because we don't do that type of activity, that type of risk is reduced for us.
Yeah. Way back when I first read about this, and I've still got it written here, could be the gift that keeps on giving.
Further questions, discussion? Okay. From my perspective, I'd like just to commend staff for their approach in engaging with iwi and seeking legal advice. I'm very comfortable to support the recommendation and move forward with it. So let's move to the recommendations. We'll take the first one, receives the report. I'm happy to move that. We have a second, Councillor Cherry-Campbell. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And second recommendation, agrees to accepting the offer from the Wairarapa estate to give Carterton District Council the easement of Craigie Lee. Councillor Williams, seconder. Councillor Newman, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
I'll abstain. I do.
Councillor Della and Councillor Gallon abstain. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, where are you going?
Okay. 7.8, West Taratahi Hall Reserve upgrades, page 100.
So the West Taratahi Hall, Chester Road is a reserve that we have had for quite some time. It's original Crown land, original school. The West Taratahi Hall Association have been kaitiaki or guardians of that these grounds for about 40 odd years. So back in the 80s, early 80s, there were historical arrangements set up with a number of trusts. These guys being one of them, Belvedere Community the other, and Longawish being the other. To manage and oversee the day-to-day operation of these community halls, but they are still reserves that sit under Carterton District Council. So earlier this year, the rental property that was out at Chester Road was sold and removed, and at that time we were looking at the profits from that, the sale of that to come back to the community to do some upgrades to the reserve. However, we didn't make any profit. So the team had gone ahead and they've been doing a lot of planning, they've been doing a lot of upgrades, and they've been spending a lot of their resource out there, and it is probably safe to say our best community hall in the Carterton region. And they've undertaken community engagement with their locals and proposed some ideas. So those ideas include safe car parking, a kids walking, cycling track around the area, tidying up some boundary fence lines, especially fencing off the water race. And we've been working with them, supporting them, and they've come back with a number of quotes to support that work. Our request is that this work is funded through the reserves contribution. So the contribution that we've sat with for quite some time, we've got a significant profit in there, and it fits the criteria for reserve contributions to undertake this work.
Thank you, Glenda. Questions for Glenda? I have a question. I'm just wondering if the proposed projects that are included in this, have they prioritised them? Just thinking about their budgets, and have they included contingency sums within those budgets?
No contingencies included, so they've just received quotes. Priorities at this stage would probably be the car park, first and foremost, creating a safer parking area off the roads, and then working through the list, and fencing the water race off would probably be the two very first priorities, and then working down the list. Yeah.
Questions? No further questions. Councillor Ayling.
So more of a comment. The figure that's sitting in the reserve contributions is huge, and it seems like a natural fit to put it towards this project. I just question whether or not we need to be putting money into that fund going forward, because it just seems like it's a big chunk that's sitting there unused at the moment.
I can answer that. Firstly, the reserve contributions are set in the district plan. So whenever there's a subdivision, there's a requirement for a contribution. The contribution is split based on what's in the district plan, as our district plan commissioners will probably tell us. Some of it goes to roading, some of it goes to reserves, some of it goes to infrastructure, which is water, wastewater and storm. So that's set in the district plan, and we will just continue topping it up. The reason it's so big is Flint's a bit of a skinflint, and if he can build it himself and not spend any money, he will do that. And we have had numerous conversations about lots of things that we could do, and Clint does them on the smell of an oily rag. So the reserve has grown, and look, we would love to use this for the benefit of our community.
Thanks.
That's great. For that is that we have acknowledged that it is really high, and we've been talking about what this looks like and what we can do and what we can actively do, and what really needs to be done in some of our reserves. So there's some further drainage work. I don't know if you guys know the really boggy area at Carterton Park every year gets boggy. So looking at how do we fix some of these major projects out of this fund.
So we're developing a plan
Yep.
for reserves management plan, and Clint and the team are working on a plan for all of our reserves, and then we'll be able to come back to you with that. And this is one of the areas that we will use to fund that.
Awesome. Councillor Gillon.
It's nice to see will not have any impact on rates. It's nice. We could not look after the wall and it'll look like the Belvedere Hall in no time.
Councillor Laurence.
Yeah, I don't think I have a conflict here, but I do drive past it twice a day. And I am
In the committee.
Not a conflict.
And I am impressed by the work that the local committee have done, with no help from council, as far as I know. There's constant working bees. They've made a hell of a difference to it. The photograph that we're looking at here has a house on it. Yeah, there's been a lot of work done on that. The population around there is growing really rapidly, and this is, I think, quite a key amenity for a growing lifestyle population. So, yeah, I'm in favour. The only other comment I would make was, though, we didn't make a profit
on the sale of the property, we did generate $40,000 that wasn't there before. And I think that's worth remembering.
If I may, Jill, the house that was there, had we kept it, would have required significant investment to bring up to healthy homes.
Yes, understand that.
So this would
They have lots of money.
Hundreds
this
of
looks
thousands.
like a really good alternative. And
So you moving those recommendations?
If we're at that point, yeah, absolutely.
One comment, thanks, Steve. I'm all in favour of the project. As written down here, the 72,000 quoted for those projects seems a little bit light to me, but if that's what they think they are, well, that's really good. And as it's already been said, there's a large chunk sitting in the reserves contribution fund, which we should be spending on things like this. So I'm more than happy to go along with it. And as has been said, the area out there is growing with lifestylers, and they are a passionate lot of people that look after the place. So it's good.
Cherry-Campbell.
Yeah.
Why they're probably done traffic management.
A couple of years ago, I actually sat on this committee for a few years, but I'm no longer on the committee at all. And it's already been said about the passionate committee members. In response to the quotes look a little bit light, I would hazard a guess, and I don't know because I haven't been involved in any of this, but they organise working bees. So a lot of the reason that this does look a little bit light for what they're proposing is that they will be getting the community involved and the committee and doing a lot of this work. I just think I go back to 4 years ago or 5 years ago when I first sat on the committee, and they were talking about their vision of what they wanted to see for this reserve. And I now read this report and it just fills my heart, because this is what they were talking about, the sort of that they're talking about that they've been steadily working towards. So I think it's awesome.
Thank you. I agree. I'm very supportive of providing them the funding as requested. I think it's fantastic to see the work that they're doing. I agree with both Councillor Dell and Councillor Cherry-Campbell that it's probably a bit light, and they're doing quite a bit of the work themselves unfunded. So, yeah, I think it's fantastic to support them. So, if that's all the discussion, let's move to the recommendations. And we have 3 of them. I'm happy to take them all together. We have Councillor Della and Councillor Cherry-Campbell. So with that, we received the report, we endorse the West Taratahi Hall Reserve project and approve the project budget of 72,487 as unplanned expenditure funded from the Reserves Contribution Fund under the Parks and Reserve banner. And all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you.
well done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And thank you for all your work you do out there, Clint, and support and advice.
Pleasure.
Yep, congratulate their team. It's great.
The only unfortunate thing is it looked like they've put together an enormous bonfire for New Year's Eve, but we now got a total fire ban.
Yes. Like,
Get a clue.
Goodness.
okay. 7.9, Brooklyn Road pedestrian level crossing. Johannes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My apologies. I was a bit lost for words there. I'll talk to why in the next report. Anyway, I'll take the report as read and just want to highlight a few things. Obviously, the purpose of this report is for council to consider contributing to the construction of the pedestrian crossing at on Brooklyn Road from development contributions. At the time of the scoping of Kiwi Rail's project, there was no footpaths in that area, and as such, they didn't allow for the pedestrian mazes that's required for that. So with that, I will give it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Johannes. Questions? Discussion? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, just to say, look, I think this is a pragmatic recommendation that, I don't blame Kiwi Rail at all. The footpath wasn't there. It wasn't in their workings. I think they've done very well to help us accommodate what is a practical necessity for connecting those two sides of the railway line. It would be crazy not to do it and then have regrets in the future. I think it's just one of those things that we just swallow it, get it done and move on.
Councillor Newman.
I agree. Just that new footpath is really well used. I often see kids biking on it and people walking up and down there. And at the moment, they're having to jump on the road and cross the road. Just isn't safe for anybody. So I totally support us doing it. It's a shame we've got to foot the bill, but I think it is what it is. And the fact that it's half the bill it could be is awesome. A little additional note would be, it would be great to see a safe way for people to then cross from that new footpath to the limestone path on Lincoln Road, where they continue on their journey, because at the moment it's a bit of a dodgy corner. Because you love a little bit more work this time.
Open the door and someone kicks it open.
What part? The underpass.
And like the previous report that we've had, also the funding that we're being requested to approve isn't going to impact our ratepayers because it is again coming out of reserves, which we've heard is part of the contributions. So, and it's never going to get cheaper.
Yep. Yep, I concur. Kiwi Rail have got us by the short and curlies, really. We chose to do nothing. And Kiwi Rail have got a return. The cost for them to do that would be ridiculously, well, a lot higher than 190,000, especially when you consider the roads traffic safety management and what that costs these days, let alone the rail safety management. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a positive from me.
Yeah, we look awfully silly if we do nothing and someone gets killed there.
Oh,
Someone under 11.
So we have two recommendations there, and I'm happy to take both of those together as well, and happy to move them both. The first one, we received the report. The second one, we approve 190,000 for the installation of a Kiwi Rail approved pedestrian rail crossing at Brooklyn Road to be funded from Roading Contributions Fund. Wait a second. Thank you, Councillor Williams. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Local water done well.
Oh, God.
I think
Done it well. May I start by saying, has anything changed since you've written the paper, Johannes?
so. Very good question. So we've just been advised that Taratahi District Council has also made their commitment to participate in the Wairarapa plus Taratahi option. So they had their meeting at 3:00. So we've been anticipating it, but now it is that is.
Are they participating in any other?
No.
Okay.
wow. Oh, so they pulled out of the Manawatu.
Yes. So they'll have a similar approach to us to consult on status quo versus Wairarapa plus Taratahi option.
Very good. Very good. Critical mass.
Thanks, Shane. Questions? I had a number of questions this morning. I don't know whether they should be brought into this afternoon so the community get to hear them, but
I think just before we go into questions, I just want to bring just kind of just draw some attention to a few things. So as we progress with or where we are currently at is we're preparing for consultation early next year. In that consultation, there will be two options to consider. That will be our current water service delivery option with the enhanced requirements of any new regulations. then there will be the Wairarapa plus Tararua CCO option. So that still needs to go to consultation. It'll go the normal process of consultation document being approved by full council. So this is by no means that decision. But on our journey towards preparing those options, there's various decisions that the council will make. And we're trying to align those decisions with the other three councils as well. But you can imagine how challenging that is. But we're trying to align. This council has been very much on board with a lot of these decisions, so we thought we could bring it today. So the decisions are outlined in the paper, and now I will give it back here for questions.
Questions around the table? Councillor Ayling.
My question was a couple of weeks ago, I think, Jeff, you made a comment that you thought the chances of us getting this across the line weren't sitting so great. With Tara's decision today and this morning's meeting, what are your chances? What
I think
do you think on our chances?
well above 50%. Yeah, so well above 50%. The risk remains that Masterton stand alone, and that may put pressure on the remaining entities in Y+T. But from this morning's meeting, and feedback from with Masterton no longer participating in the Wellington Regional Water Services Delivery Plan, my expectation is our chances have significantly increased.
That's positive.
It does.
Councillor Dillon.
Yeah, thank you. Just on that also, Grace, on page 114, about 6th paragraph there, offers to note that none of the decisions made by the expanded AOG will bind their participating councils. So there's still, as explained, there's still a few out clauses there.
Yeah.
And down in the next paragraph, the last sentence, the joint WSCCO consultation document is designed to solicit public feedback. Public. Is that meant to be from the public?
Public
Doesn't-
feedback,
doesn't-
full stop.
Could be the editor of the report's typo.
Yeah, I think there's, I just didn't read right to me. But this one.
Definitely wasn't the authors.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think all my other questions have been answered this morning, which is really cool.
Councillor Cherry-Campbell.
In relation to the AOG, and I guess this is more, I think we got a fairly good indication in the combined meeting earlier today about talking about the expanded group to 10, so 2 elected members from each of the councils. And I had a question after I'd read the paper, but before today's meeting was, I think that's really great, and I think it just gives a much better platform for all of us to have. And my question was, how has this been received by South Wairarapa and Masterton district councils? But having had the meeting this morning with fellow elected members, they indicated too that they believed having 2 elected members, one being either the mayor or deputy mayor and the other being another elected member, was their preference as well, along with 2 iwi reps. So I just kind of wanted to table that for the public as opposed to asking a question now, because I know the answer. Thank you.
Councillor Laurence.
You can tell when he's got a question. It's got this look of, I'm about to ask you a question.
We have 2 documents to prepare. I know this relates to the Y+T option. We also have to prepare an enhanced Carterton only option. To what extent will the Carterton only option look at the status of our council in the event that the Y+T CCO goes ahead? I think you know why I'm asking, because it seems to me that it will be perilous.
I think that's an important question that we need to answer as part of consultation.
It was highlighted previously through the stranded overheads conversation. So how much is left behind when you take one and split it into two? So I think there is a very live question for our community of the remainder being a viable remainder when we take out 40% of our business, which is waters. And when 3 other councils also take out 40% of their business, do any of us have a viable remainder? I think is a very valid question. So we will be, a piece of work that we're going through now is updating the stranded overheads conversation, calculation. And we will bring that again as part of the adoption of the standalone option. We do feel, my initial feeling is it will be quite difficult to remain standalone without waters after we've lost 40% of our business and 40% of our revenue, and probably not, 40% of our debt or our balance sheet. So that's going to be difficult for a small council and will need to be a consideration for the community when they provide us feedback. Also for council when we make this decision, because you will be asked to make a decision on whether or not you wish to split the business, which is effectively the water services delivery plan joint model, Y+T. And it's a heavy burden. However, if I can project, if we get this right, it may also serve as a template to help join together other parts of our business on a more permanent basis.
It did feel quite collegial this morning.
Mostly.
Well, yeah.
Johannes, I've got a couple of questions around the stormwater, and I know I asked it this morning, public excluded obviously, but it's in your report around stormwater, and in clause 10 provides that a water service delivery plan must relate to all water services. I struggle with us including stormwater when we don't know what the updated regulatory standards are going to be and how all that is going to work going forward with water coming off roads into culverts and things like that, and whether the water is going to have to be treated and so forth.
I think if we think about the water services, whoever's delivering the water services, whether it's in-house or CCO, it will have to deal with the regulations in the same manner. With the analysis of the option so far was which option would deal with whatever comes the best. Our recommendation, or we would see stormwater as part of the water service entity because of the expertise that would be transferring into that water service entity. Currently, our team delivers, the team that delivers wastewater, water supply, also delivers stormwater management, and that includes testing of stormwater and then also resource consents, those kind of things, management of surface water channels that's not roading assets. So some of the stormwater assets does not relate to, is not in the roading corridor and therefore not part of the roading scope of work, and it's not subsidised by NZTA. So therefore, we would suggest to try and keep the waters together.
Because it's an option, they've given up each council an option whether you include stormwater or not. I think that could create issues. If one council, especially our neighbours to the north, choose to keep it in-house and we choose to put it into the entity, how do we get on when stormwater is coming through our district?
I think there's two aspects. The plan needs to include stormwater as to how that will be delivered. And then the question is whether the entity delivers that or whether it will be delivered in-house by each of the councils. So there's two aspects. Legislation says your water services delivery plan must include how you're going to deliver stormwater. But you don't have to deliver that through your water services CTO. You can have some other mechanism. And what's interesting for us, and particularly South Wairarapa, is we have a water race network. And so we have people dealing with cleaning water races. So question, do we want to also incorporate that? Because all of waters is going out, or do we want to keep a piece back? In terms of the question of one council may say, Masterton may decide to do stormwater in-house and we decide to put it in the water services entity. I think that's going to be the same with every single decision that we consider as part of the water services delivery plan. Masterton may decide, for example, or another entity may decide that they want a non-harmonisation period for a longer time. They may decide that they want to have a different joining mechanism for asset and revenue. I think there's going to need to be constant and close communication post our public consultation to make sure that we don't end up with 4 versions of Y+T, because that is a very real possibility. So that's our job as officers, to make sure you're informed on what everyone else is doing. But it's also your job as elected members to keep across what other councils are doing to make sure we end up with one final agreed version.
I think if I may add to that, on an operational level, if we think about infrastructure and we create this Wairarapa plus Tararua network, not every piece of the network looks the same. So you would have level of service you could have an area that has formal stormwater infrastructure dealt with by that entity. Similar to not everywhere we don't have water supply everywhere.
In part.
Yeah, so that's something that can be navigated when you go down to that operational level.
Okay, I just had one more question, and it was around the funding. The 250k of better off funding that is available, was that part of the 520k that we set aside in the LTP? Because
no, it wasn't. No, this was so we got 2 chunks of better off funding, and just trying to remember how much it was. That better off funding was attributed to various projects. There was some solar panel projects. There was Te Ao Māori. There was some projects. So then, following the change of government, they came through and said you can not use any surplus better off funding available for anything other than local water done well. So what we have done is use better off funding for local water done well, which is where the 250 come. I think it's part of the 520 that we added, or that was part of the LTP.
Okay. Further questions, discussion?
I just got a discussion point. It's regarding the consultation. And I think that the opportunity to have the alternative consultation is great, and then not have to re-consult on the LTP. Because obviously, as we know, consulting costs money or consultations cost money. So at least that's one thing that we don't, if we go with the recommendation 2, it's going to keep the stuff a little bit tighter and more clear for our ratepayers, and we don't have to go back and rehash stuff.
May I comment on that? I fully support Councillor Cherry-Campbell's comment. If we go fast with the water services entity, it's likely it may occur in year 3 of our LTP. not year 4. So if we don't use the alternative arrangement or alternative consultation options, we will have to consult on a change to our LTP, which is moving water services out of year 3. Potentially, if that's
Yes.
the date council chooses to go live.
But at this point in time, we've
We've made
not
no
yet-
decisions.
Yeah, we've made no decisions on setting any dates, so this kind of makes the most fiscal sense to me.
That's right.
I just have a question on our timeframes and our information that we're going to receive over the next little while. Obviously, this is our last meeting for the year. Our next council meeting is not till the 19th of February. You guys are going to be doing a heck of a lot of work through January and the start of February. I'm just wondering, will there be email updates throughout January where we're keeping abreast of decisions that the AOG are making? And
If council would like, I'm more than happy to share the AOG packs that come out that go to the advisory oversight group with all of council. And so you can see the decisions that are going up to the AOG, and if you have feedback you can give it to the AOG members. More than happy to share that.
We could have some workshops, couldn't we?
We absolutely.
We need them. I think we might need them.
Good idea. We'll try and schedule them towards the end of January. We normally try and keep January and July free from meetings, but we'll do that towards the end of January. Happy to.
Cool. Thanks, Johannes. I'd just like to thank you. I've always thank your team, the water transition team, for getting us to this point. I think that, as Jeff's already alluded to, I think the 3 councils are a little bit more aligned than we ever have been. So that's really good moving forward. So we have 5.
We've got a bit of a gap in number 4, haven't we?
Taking them one at a time.
We have 5 recommendations, and I'll move that we receive the report. We have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Williams. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Number 2 and number 3, happy to take together. Agrees to make use of the alternative consultation and decision-making provisions provided in the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Bill, and agrees to expand the Y+T Advisory Oversight Group to 2 elected members from each participating council, at least 1 being the Mayor or Deputy Mayor, plus iwi representatives from Ngāti Kahungunu, Wairarapa, and Rangatani or Wairarapa Tumaira.
Isn't it to be just Rangatani or Wairarapa? Because the Tumaira is wasn't that raised this morning? Sorry to interrupt. That was raised this morning by Joe Hayes. So it should just be Rangatani or Wairarapa.
Can we take that, make that little correction? And Rangatani or Wairarapa? And AOG of 10 members. Councillor Cherry-Campbell's moving that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ayling, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Very good. Recommendation 4, appoint
Brian Della.
Brian Della
I'll second that.
to the Y+T Advisory Oversight Group.
And Steve Cretney.
As either.
Already on the top one.
Well, at least it says 1 being the mayor or deputy.
Either or.
Either.
So is that an alternate?
They'll decide which one it's going to be.
Yeah.
At that level, we're talking about
Okay.
the extra councillor.
Recommendation 4, who would like to, Councillor Williams
I second.
suggested appointing Brian Della to the Y+T Advisory Oversight Group. Councillor Cherry-Campbell seconded that. All in favour?
Aye.
Should we
Okay.
ask Councillor Della?
You don't.
Don't ask him.
And recommendation 5 is we approve a project budget of 150,000 for the development of a joint water services consultation document to be funded from transition and better off funding already received. Councillor Della moving, Councillor Gallen, all in favour?
Aye.
Well done, Johannes.
Awesome.
7.11. Chief Executive's Report, page 189.
I'll move.
Hey,
Ones from now.
Very good. But I'm conscious of time, so let's take the report as and have a questions.
Questions?
That's a good report.
Great.
A really good report.
One of my questions was, do we have to pay to have Carterton's mural walk included on Destination Wairarapa's website? Just because one of the other council's mural walks is included. So it's just good.
And we already fund Destination Wairarapa.
Yeah. Any further questions on?
No, the report's that good. I couldn't find a question in
Oh, Brian,
Stop looking.
you're so.
the 12 pages of it. So congratulations, you.
I just yeah, I just have a couple of comments. The first one, I'd just like to thank Sandra for bringing the story walk idea from Marnborough to Carterton. I think it's a big hit with the children and adults. So thank you to Sandra, and also applaud management's decision to work with the Kaipatangata Restoration Group, who are looking to undertake protection of the long-tailed bat colony living in the Kaipatangata forest. I think that's fantastic stuff. Clint, wherever he is, just Glenda, you can pass that on. Do we have any further comments, discussion? No. I think there's one recommendation. We received the report. I'm happy to move. Councillor Della, all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. 7.12, report on the administration of CDC's practices in relation to the control of dogs for the year 1st of July 2023 to 30th of June 2024.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Elected members, this is a report that we are required to do on a yearly basis. But I'll try and keep it short, take the report as read, but I've sort of preempted a couple of questions about, where there was any significant changes from last year to this report. I'd just like to note we've had an increase in number of registrations from 2682 to 2753. Nothing's really changed on the dangerous or menacing. Dog-related complaints are down by 39, which is good. One additional bite on a person, similar with stock, less on the rushing, down a little bit on barking, quite a large jump on wandering dogs, but I think we're onto that a lot more and the community's onto it. So they are actually ringing in, which is actually really good. We only lost 16 dogs this year versus 30. And not us, but
I was just going to say that was still very careless of you.
Yeah.
So we found
If we found 32 versus 24.
Tell Dave to stop looking.
I always wonder where the dogs are that we haven't found.
We found every dog twice.
But the couple of really nice statistics is impounding is from 42 the previous year down to 20. We haven't had to rehome any, although we've got those two little ones in the pound at the moment. They're young pups that were dumped. And we only had to destroy one dog in this year, which was, and it was a last resort after trying to rehome and then just finding that the temperament was just unstable enough that it wouldn't have been a sensible thing for a council to do. So yes, I will answer any additional questions if elected members have them.
Got any now?
Councillor Gallen, did you have something about the 16 dogs and the 32?
I did, yeah. I said, tell Dave stop looking. If he lost 16 and found 32, tell Dave stop looking.
Yeah, these are just the ones that come in as reported. So, we might find dogs on the side of the road that haven't actually been reported as missing, but it does make me laugh.
Councillor Ayling.
I just very quickly, the new dog tags, are they still working well?
Haven't had any complaints for a while. So it seems to have settled down. I think people, if they've
Got used to it.
Yeah.
got used to it, change.
Yeah.
Yep, very good.
No further questions, discussion? No? Great. Thanks, Solacey. It's a great report. Let's take both those recommendations together. You comfortable with that? There's a mover and a second, Councillor Ayling, and a seconder, please. Councillor Cherry-Campbell. The first one is that we receive the report. Second one, we adopt the report on Council's administration of dog control practices as set out in Section 5 for the period 1st of July 2023 to 30th of June 2024 under Section 10A Control Acts 1996. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Next, 7.13, amendments to committee and advisory group terms of reference.
Back.
Linda.
So this is just the final, hopefully fingers crossed, the final time this report comes up to council. It's noted that we've had a few workshops. We've had all the changes to the MOUs, the changes are noted in the attachments in red. And the MOU framework has been developed. Yes, any questions?
Any questions? I think this has been on the table for quite some time, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to move for recommendations if everyone else is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take both of them together. Thank you, Councillor Williams. Would you have a seconder? Councillor Ayling, thank you. And that's where we receive the report and confirms the amendments to the terms of reference for CDC committees and advisory groups as outlined in this report. All in favour?
Yep. Aye.
Right. Okay. Carried. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate the time.
Send it back a few times. Not much.
Okay, 7.14, meeting schedule 2025. You're on.
Thank you. I'll take the report as read. This is obviously for next year, for 2025. And all of the committee meetings, council meetings identified and highlighted. The one comment I'll make is that this could be subject to change, as we all know, due to perhaps local waters and workshops may be required. And of course, we've got local elections in October next year. So this will change, no doubt, and we'll just bring that back to council as it changes. And don't forget, there was a suggestion that we adopt the annual report before the of October. So we'll go back and with
With that.
any questions, comments?
Just with regards to local water done well with our consultation hearings and deliberations, do we have a rough date for that at this point?
So South Wairarapa are keen to go earlier. They seem to, they would like to align consultation with their long-term plan. Both us and Marsden were seeking to do the consultation in the month of April and then have hearings and deliberations in and around the middle of May, which would then provide sufficient time for us as officers to bring a final decision report to council at the end of June. So that's the time frame we're working to, which means we need to consider adopting a consultation document probably in around the middle of March, which will give our comms team a couple of weeks in order to finalise the document before it goes out public in April. So from here, that doesn't leave a great deal of time in order to get through a bunch of decisions to create a plan for middle of March. So our thinking is we're going to have fortnightly catch-ups with the AOG from the end of January through till about the middle of March, going through the decisions that we need to and the progress that we need to make. So yeah, bring it back to council. Might need to put in an extraordinary meeting at some time in March because, as you pointed out, next meeting is 19th of February. And we don't have another meeting after that until the 1st of April. So we might have to slot something in March to adopt a consultation document. And then we'll have to slot in some hearings and deliberations once we've adopted and know the timeline for receiving public feedback.
Just supplementary to that, we saw on the screen this morning that South Wairarapa want to go in March for the consultation. if the work has been done at that point, because we're doing basically the same consultation, would it not make sense for us to then align with them in March and pull it forward a month and
It would. More time is,
unless they push it back?
That's then we'd have to have the extraordinary meeting.
but it would,
It just feels like if they're putting their stuff out, we should be at the same time.
preference is to align with other councils.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that we get bang for buck in terms of
Yeah.
media presence and public engagement.
Yeah, and as they already have their long-term plan, it feels like we should move with them.
We'll get questions straight away as soon as one council
Yeah.
starts presenting information, so we might as well be.
The ideal is that we all go on the same day.
Yeah. Cool.
So are they committed to March or can they, because of the long-term plan, could they do that?
They did, they did say
I
that
found out about that.
it indicated, but they haven't set a date.
Yeah, nobody's set a date. We're all kind of working towards things and we'll just see how it goes in early new year. Yep. Masterton and us seem to be more flexible with the timeline, mostly because we're doing annual plans, not long-term plans.
No further questions, discussion around the report? There's 3 recommendations there. Happy to take those 3 together. Receive the report, and 2, adopts the schedule of meetings for January to December 2025 as outlined in attachment 1. And 3, notes that meeting dates and or times may be changed by agreement with the chair and the chief executive and will be advertised as required by the Act. I'm happy to move that. We have a second. Councillor Newman, thank you. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Next item, update on local body elections 2025.
Thank you. I'll take the paper as read. As part of the local body elections, one of the first things we have to resolve is the order of our candidates are listed in the local elections. So I believe from last time we used alphabetical, and that is the preferred option versus random or pseudo-random, whatever that might be. So in the paper, it outlines the percentage from the previous election. So the preference, I believe, is that we will continue with our method of voting via alphabetical. No, random. The other one.
It's been a long day. The other random.
Okay, randomly vote.
Yes.
Got that, thank you.
Williams.
I support that.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions for Carol around the table?
It's quite clear, wasn't it?
Which bit?
That it's going to be random.
And continues to be random.
Why change?
There is an option to be even more random. Nope.
Reverse alphabetical.
Discussion? No. Okay, we'll go to the recommendations. There's 2 of them. Together.
It's
I
been
think
a
we
long
can.
day. Random and alphabetical look the same.
Councillor Cherry-Campbell has moved that we take both of those recommendations together. Do we have a second? Thank you, Councillor Della. And that's that we receive the report, and 2, agrees that in accordance with clause 31 of the local electoral regulations 2001, the method of ordering the names of candidates on the voting papers for the 2025 local government election and any subsequent by-election in the triennium 2025 to 2028 continues to be
Random.
random.
Yep.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Motion by Dale Williamson. Second.
And 7.16,
Seconded by random.
Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act requests.
Right, I will randomly assume that was the thing, and that the list of Lagoimas for the period has reduced. There have been numbers, but
Yeah.
there's a list of them attached. Any questions?
With that discussion,
Only that
They have like beds.
No, just an observation that sometimes when Legoimas come through, I understood from Legoimas that what we printed in the agenda were the questions or the information specifically that the applicants were requesting. I note that there's a couple in this, and I've seen it occasionally where we print a whole lot of statements that the applicant is making, which may or may not be correct because the question hasn't been answered. And I guess just my question is, why do we print the assumptions of an applicant along with the question for the public to see? Because the question may make them incorrect or null and void or whatever.
It's a really good point you raised, Councillor Williams, and I think we need to update our processes to just print the question that was asked. And so I've asked the team to do that. You make a very valid point. We don't need to include the body of the email or the context or anything. They're asking an official question. Let's include the question, not all of the content around the question from an Official Information Act request. That's what we should be doing. So I've asked the team to change that from.
Because once they're answered, it goes online and it's there for all the public to see and make their own.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I apologise for that, but yeah, we will do that moving forward.
Oh, and just to say.
Usual.
Yeah, the usual. Yeah,
Noted.
You moving that we received the report?
grudgingly. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ayling. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? And 7.17, service requests and complaints.
Again, take the report as read. It's for the period over to 27 November and a list of some of the complaints for the. Yes, and service requests. So you can see the data that's been taken for that period. Question?
Discussion. Receive the report. Nothing moved. Second. Councillor Della, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? And 7.
Good to see the number of dogs found is dropping, isn't it, Councillor?
And the late item, 7.18, which is the adoption of the Wairarapa
Local alcohol policy.
Thank you.
Local alcohol policy.
So, it has been
Emailed as well.
to councillors.
We do have hard copies for those that generally do hard copies.
Thank you. On behalf of Brian and I.
Got one there?
Three.
That's all right. I've just got mine here.
You dinosaur.
There you go, dinosaur. Oh,
Saving the trees, I've already got one.
All right, so this paper is a formality paper post the hearings that were held by the Wairarapa policy working group, so it's taken their recommendations back. So 18th of September, council adopted the draft policy to go out for public consultation, and there was, in essence, 4 options presented. There was an option 1, option 1A, an option 2, and the option 3. So the option that this council and South Wairarapa and Masterton agreed on was option 1, which was to adopt the Wairarapa draft local alcohol policy for consultation. And you'll recall at that meeting we had some discussions about the various 5 options of the 5 changes that have been made to the existing policy to strengthen it. And that was in relation to sensitive sites. It was in relation to trading hours, special licenses being issued for events that were motor related,
youth, events with youth. and also special events. And that they could have up to 12 in a 12-month period as opposed, and so they could have them over 3 months, but only 12 in any 1 year.
Any 1 year. So that was what was adopted and went out for the consultation. And this is a bit of a summary of the consultation. And you will see in one of the charts that the option 1, the council's preferred option, did have the most support, and that all 5 of the proposals generally did have overwhelming support. So the recommendation that is coming to this council is to adopt the policy because it does need to be publicly notified. And there's one part of it will be 30 days after notification. The other part is 93 months after the date of the public notice. And that is a maximum trading hours can only come into force 3 months after the date of the public notice. All other parts of it come in 30 days. I have no idea why that is set in the Act. It seems quite random that you would have different days when a policy comes into effect. And I'd just like to make one note to recommendation 2 and 3 are actually duplicates.
We'll take them together.
That might be a random thing to do.
Not alphabetical though.
It's getting late in the day.
And I'm happy to answer some questions. And I'd just like to thank our elected members who have been sitting on that policy group. It's been a really huge amount of work.
Question? Discussion? Thanks, Solitaire. I concur with your comments. A good process. I'm happy to move to the recommendations of the tablers. Can we take the first 5, noting that 2 and 3 are identical? I'm happy to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Williams. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Read those out, you know. And recommendation 6, the important one, agrees to the Wairarapa Policy Working Group recommendations that either A, Wairarapa District Council.
Both. Not or. Not either.
Oh, is it both?
The both of them, yeah.
Okay, recommendations that Wairarapa District Councils agree to adopt the Wairarapa Local Alcohol Policy, Attachment 1, and gives public notice of adoption, and the Wairarapa District Councils agree to bring the changes of off-licence maximum trading hours into force on the 1st of April 2025, and the rest of the Wairarapa Local Alcohol Policy into force on the 1st of February 2025.
Okay.
Councillor Cherry-Campbell has moved that. We have a seconder. Councillor Williams, thank you. All in favour?
Got to be quicker.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay. Our next item is exclusion of public. So happy to move that we move, and Councillor Newman is second that we move into public.